Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Hey everyone. Before we get started with the show, I'm excited to announce two things. First is that my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, is now live on Amazon. So go get it. The second thing is we have a new sponsor, Qualified.com. I'm going to tell you about them in the next couple seconds here, and also how you can get a free copy of my book thanks to them. So who are these people? Well, Qualified is the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Sales reps can have real-time, personalized conversations with who? Your hottest website visitors. So I want you to know, I don't just partner with anyone. I genuinely love these guys. And the platform, we use it at my company. Our sales team loves it. We've closed a lot of deals based on it, had a lot of great conversations with prospects too. So, a lot of marketing these days is what? Hurry up and wait, right? Fill out this form. And then if we pass you over to sales, maybe you'll swap 6 emails with them to find a good time to talk. But what if a prospect is doing research right now and they would chat now? Why not give them the opportunity? So the best part is your company actually decides what leads are worth a live chat. There's a lot of noise out there. You don't want to talk to everyone. So Qualified actually connects to Salesforce and Pardot, and it's able to pull in lead and contact information so you can specifically know if you're talking to a VIP, a VP, a decision maker. It's really kind of like magic. Now, if you don't know who someone is, well, what happens then, Casey? Well, that's when the bots come in handy. Chat bots can then ask questions to further qualify a lead, find out if maybe this is someone you do want to talk to. And they can book meetings while your sales team is out. And they can wake up the next morning with a bunch of meetings on their calendar. Now, here's the promo. If you are a company that wants to give your sales team this ability, right, to be able to talk to decision makers right when they're on your website, do this. Go to qualified.com and start a chat, right? They use their own tool, of course. Start a chat. Tell them that Casey sent you. If you have Salesforce Pardot, when you schedule and then do a demo, they will send you a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed. Not bad, right? Well, it's only while supplies last. So hop on this thing today. And that's it for sponsors. Let's get to the show. Oh yeah, we're live, and this is it. This is the one you've been waiting for, you've been asking for, and man, today's guest, I am so excited to tell you all about her, but for many of you, you don't even need an introduction. You probably saw the name and were like, what? I got to check that one out. So she is the queen of Pardot. She is the almighty global ruler of Pardot and beyond, because she's actually 12X certified in Salesforce. Like, what is that? So smart. So lucky to have her on here. She's a Salesforce MVP, founder and blogger of the Spot for Pardot, and founder and CEO of Sercante. Andrea Tarrell, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was quite the intro. I should have read my LinkedIn bio or something.
Yeah, well, some people put it on, their ringtones, so you can wake up every morning to me saying how awesome you are. well, hey, this is our marketing leadership series. This is like 2 meteors combining to make a planet. Let's do this thing. We're talking all about marketing trends. Can't help but talk about Pardot and tech at the same time. So I want to pass you this. This is virtual Thor's hammer, because I have the real one, but it's back in the office. Okay, so here, take that. That's Thor's hammer. You got it? Okay.
Yep, got it.
Cool. So take Thor's hammer and smash for me some kind of myth, bogus strategy, misconception, and just set the record straight once and for all.
So the myth that I would start with, because I'm hearing a lot of it with all this COVID craziness and things that are going on with the economy, is that marketing is a cost center and that you should pause marketing when the economy gets tough to control expenses. I think that's the last thing that people should do. If you're looking to find new ways to drive growth, get sales back where they need to be, cutting your marketing at a time like this is not a great plan. I mean, maybe reprioritizing and kind of shifting budget around to things that are the fastest path to revenue, but I hate seeing businesses just hit the pause button on all of their marketing efforts when times are tough, because that really is the potential for them to turn things around and save their business.
Yeah, it can be kind of like shooting yourself in the foot, right? It's like, hey, we're not selling enough. Like things are happening. It's like, cool. Let's stop the things that help us sell more.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah, when
Go
the
ahead.
first job that I graduated from college during one of the last economic downturns, and went to go work for an insurance brokerage. And I was their only marketing person. And the CEO got a ton of flack for hiring me, for investing in content marketing, for spending all this time thinking about marketing when their customers and the rest of the economy was kind of going on lockdown. But he looked like a genius coming out on the other end of the recession, because we had an amazing marketing program and none of our competitors did. So we're really well positioned to take over a good chunk of the market.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You may, if you make this decision, you may look like to your peers like a complete idiot. And it sounds like this guy was just like laughed off the CEO stage a little bit from all of his peers, but they're not laughing now, to your point, when the cloud's cleared and you guys have a strong program, you've got the content, you got everything in place to really capitalize when people are ready to buy again.
Yep, 100%.
Why do you think, why is it the first to get shot in tough times, marketing? Because I think talking about this and figuring it out, we can figure out how to better position ourselves as marketers. So like, what were we doing wrong in the past that put a target on our back, or still is probably?
Yeah, I think when marketing is viewed as like the arts and crafts department, and all about like graphic design and like communication, and maybe framed a little softer in people's minds, I think it's easier to be written off as superfluous and something that you can afford to cut the expense for. I think when marketers are, like, a lot of Pardot admins are great at this, but when marketers are showing their impact on revenue, can point to a report and a dashboard and say, this is how much pipeline I'm driving, this is exactly how marketing touch points are contributing to sales, that puts you in a really strong position.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a couple things there. Before we get on that pipeline impact, when you mentioned the arts and crafts department, first of all, hilarious. But then you mentioned communications, and I know I even got a degree in English and communications. Right? It's such a soft word. Yeah, we all need to communicate, and honestly, communication is like key for all of life. But I think in the business world, just saying like, "Oh, this is the team that communicates to people," it's like, okay, how is that an essential worker for our struggling company? I think words matter in this case, right? So you would change it to something other than communications, or just be aware that if your position is even like a communication specialist, that doesn't, even the title doesn't have a tie into what you might actually be doing, which is driving revenue.
Yeah, I think like focusing on the outcomes would be like the overall theme, because
I like that.
I mean, even internal like comms and corporate comms and things like that, those are all, they are pretty essential functions. Like how you're talking to your employees, how you're talking to your customers, how you're talking to the press. But for whatever reason, I feel like those words get a bad rap, like communication or like customer relations or things like that. But focusing on the outcomes and like what difference are you making, I think can maybe help.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And it's funny because like I'm making fun of communications, but we all kind of, the underlying thing is, like during a troubling time, communicating to your team, your customers, to partners, like that's one of the most important things you can do. And I think a lot of people get it wrong too. It is exhibited by maybe people paused on marketing and then sent out those silly emails that like abuse COVID as a keyword, and just like eye rolling when you receive another email from a brand you've never heard from in the last 20 years who cares about you apparently.
Yeah, 100%. I also think with all this uncertainty and COVID things that are going on,
Yeah,
it's also an awesome opportunity for marketers to make a play at expanding their impact within a company. So, like instead of just using Pardot for like prospect communications, like looking at other ways you can add value, and almost looking at marketing automation as like the operating system for your communication. So like getting involved in like talking to employees about digital transformation and things that are changing, and getting involved in like following up with customer service requests and building automation to support those teams that may really benefit from automation right now.
Yeah, so true. Expanding the impact. Like, times are uncertain, so you can either kind of cower in fear and in confusion, or try to show some leadership and start just taking on things like, oh, especially if a company has, changes and whatnot, just kind of stepping up and saying, what else can I take on? And you're right. I think marketing, the more things we touch, like, yeah, like the more impact it has. And then the more necessary you are to the whole organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned, a couple of those ways. Any other thoughts on what are like, if you could take a couple things on during this time, what would be some of the ways you would want people to step up? You said it really well, like the other ways you can add value. How else could you add value to the team, to the company?
So, I mean, this is sort of like a way you can add value in any economic climate, but kind of reaching out to other teams and looking for like things that they're doing on an ongoing basis that could be enhanced with automation. So like sales, for example, some of sales communication is super nuanced, and they're personalizing it for the prospect, and they're putting a lot of thought into like what
Keep your
needs to
mitts
be.
off at marketing. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But a lot of stuff isn't, like the routine follow-ups of like, hey, just checking in, just wanted to follow up, or like programs following up with closed lost opportunities. I'm also a huge fan of, because in theory, sales wants to be able to circle back and say, like 6 months after a deal is lost, I'm going to give this guy a call and just check on how things are going with a competitor or whatever. But in real life, like they moved on to the next thing. They never reach out to the customer again. Like,
ever.
Automate that. Like things that they aren't going to get to, or are just kind of tedious. Those are amazing use cases for automation.
That's a great point. Go ahead.
Employee onboarding is another one.
Okay.
Like that's also like very, there's a series of steps. You could probably think through those steps and build the automation to support that, and add a ton of value there. Save somebody a ton of time.
Yeah. Like, what's cool about this is we're thinking about different things that people would never want to do. It's like the last thing on their priority. Like, I would rather go eat, Brussels sprouts than follow up with leads that rejected me as a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, we don't like you. We like the other people. You're like, dang it. Like, seriously? And so, yeah, I'm not following up with you ever. In fact, I hope you fail. No, right?
Yeah.
So having an automation that has this really nice email from that person, personalized and everything, I could see that being really cool. And I could see them really appreciating that too. Not maybe in the moment where you're like, we created this thing. They're like, yay, go marketing, whatever. But when they get a follow-up email from someone being like, we made a mistake. Thank you for being so considerate. We want to sign up again. And you're like, what? Like, where did that come from? Thanks, marketing. More of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. You mentioned like the pipeline too. What in being able to show how much you've contributed to it. I like the idea of stepping up and then starting to measure things. What are your recommendations? Like, how do people, especially right now, they're in the shit, right? We're all in the shit together, but in marketing, you got this target. How do they start showing their contribution?
So I know Jen on your team is also super passionate about this topic.
Yeah, Jen.
Campaign influence reporting. If you're not using it and you're a Pardot and Salesforce customer, start using it. It's hands down the most impactful thing I think you can do to improve your reporting. So kind of changing the frame from like only looking at lead source or having the sales rep indicate like which initiative drove a particular opportunity. Kind of unboxing that, and instead of thinking about that in like a one-to-one fashion, tracking every single marketing touch point that you're contributing to. So forms on your website, content downloads, events, well, and not events as much anymore, but
virtual
online
events.
and offline efforts.
Right.
Getting that set up is in a campaign structure so that when an opportunity closes, you can look back and say, okay, these are the 5 things that this prospect engaged with.
Right.
And show that I mean, not necessarily taking credit away from the sales rep for closing that opportunity, but showing that marketing had a hand in helping drive that deal forward.
Yeah, right. And it kind of gets the information out there. Otherwise, they're just like, well, I found this lead and I closed it. You're like, actually, here's what the real journey looked like. They were doing this, they were doing that. They attended, I know you guys had a happy hour, which I need to sign up for when it's not in European time. I'll be there for sure. Like, but I could see you campaign tag someone who comes to the happy hour, and then you're like, cool, they eventually, we formed a relationship and now we're helping them out. And you can look all the way back to that, $0 bottle of Kettle One that you had to buy for the virtual happy hour, right? And be like, this was cool. Building a community works. That makes a lot of sense. Tell me about go ahead.
I also think it's it's just a much more complete picture of marketing's performance than just looking at MQLs and SQLs. Because if you're just measuring like net new names added to your database, like marketing's not getting credit for the massive amount of people that they're touching and nurturing and building interest with. If you're just looking at like, how did this name get added to Salesforce?
Yeah. We were just having this conversation the other day with someone, because they have the ABM approach, right? Where they have a lot of accounts that are already in there. And so adding new names is not really a thing. I mean, something happens because people change jobs and stuff, but for the most part, the accounts are all the same. And when people raise their hands, like, how do we indicate that? How do we show that they're raising their hands? Because it's not going through that standard lead process anymore. For a lot of these companies, that's what they're looking at. And then you got to try to flag it and follow up on it. So I could see how this multi-touch type campaign influence would be able to show, like, look, these people have been in our database for a long time, but it wasn't until they did X, Y, and Z, those have contributed to them eventually signing up with us.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Any other tips for marketing land out there when we're kind of in this tough time? We have our targets on our back, and it's like, okay, we've already said, focus on the outcomes. We've said, take on new things and then show impact on pipeline. Any other recommendations or any other things you'd want to encourage marketers for?
So I guess another one would be like, maybe revisit how you're thinking about the channels that are involved in your marketing program. So I feel like there are a ton of just blanket statements floating around out there about like who should and shouldn't be doing different types of things. Like Facebook can't be used for B2B marketing.
God, don't you hate the blanket statements out there?
Yes.
Is that the worst marketing or what? Like, maybe it's good marketing. I don't know, because we're talking about it, but it makes me so mad when I see that.
Yeah, I think it just holds people back from trying things that could be really impactful. So like looking at kind of what your total marketing mix is, and like having a way to measure, okay, we're on Facebook and we're using it for awareness. Are we using it for lead gen? Are we trying to drive people to landing pages?
Yeah.
Like what are we trying to accomplish with this, and is it accomplishing its purpose? I think that's just a good frame for evaluating where you want to put your focus at any time, but also during times when budgets are tight.
The idea of revisiting your mix, smart, right? Hey, things are changing. Buyer behavior may be changing. Doesn't mean we're not buying. I know I'm buying a lot of things on Amazon lately, right? Just not at restaurants. And so buyer behavior may be changing. So revisit the mix. I like that. And don't listen to blanket statements. Do you have any other favorite blanket statements that you've seen?
So Facebook for B2B, that's a one I see all the time.
Do you find success with that yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think a lot of marketers think, okay, LinkedIn is a better fit for B2B because it's professional. We're talking about business on there, but the lines between work and home life are so blurred. Yeah. I mean, people are checking their Facebook during the workday. They're on Instagram, they're on TikTok.
That's forbidden. You're not allowed to do that. You tell them, hold on, somebody's messaging me on Messenger. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so like, yeah, right. It's so blurred and blended.
Yeah, so people don't turn their work brain off when they're engaging on social channels.
It's true.
So, and also like doing things that are different than what your competition is doing. Like if none of your competitors are on on Facebook or none of your competitors are on TikTok or whatever the case may be, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't. That means that there could be an opportunity there to take a look at.
Oh my God, Andrea, are you on TikTok?
I am obsessed with TikTok.
Are you obsessed with it?
I'm a content consumer and not a content creator.
You're not going to create it on there?
It's definitely like it's probably my number one Corona hobby.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what? I was like, okay, I need to do some professional research. So I got myself on TikTok to see what all the hubbub was about. And you're right, it's fun. They're short, they're quick, and the whole point is people are concentrating whatever they're doing in like a few seconds. So you don't have a lot of like blah 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 wait around for something magic to happen. Do you have like a favorite topic or I don't know what you call them, channel or whatnot?
I mostly just troll the For You page and just kind of scroll through and see what's there.
Oh, on your laptop?
No, on my phone. On
your phone. Yeah.
But like when I first signed up for TikTok, I didn't really get it because it was like, okay, this is just like Instagram. Like it's like videos and it's like Instagram stories, maybe a little bit like Vine. But what I think that they've done that's just magical is like it seriously is like crack. Like you watch a video, it hooks you in, you swipe to go to the next thing. Like I think there are probably other learnings there that you could apply to like how to get people to consume content and how to make it really easy to take the next step to do things that could be applied to other parts of marketing and sales.
That's a really good idea. Like what could you take from TikTok and apply that into B2B marketing? Like no nonsense, 10 seconds, bam, out of your face. And then a backflip. Don't do MC backflip, bye-bye, right?
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. You know, I found. Have you heard of the stand-up challenge? Stand-up challenge. That's what it's called. Yeah. Have you heard of it?
I don't remember.
Gotta check it out. I'm obsessed with it. I want to do it one day. The missus is like not interested. So anyone out there that wants to,
bust it out right now.
Yeah. You got to check it out.
Live on the podcast.
Live on the podcast. So it's like two people, and you got a guy who's on the beach, and then the girl's like standing on him, and then she hops, and he gets on his knees, and then she hops again. It's for everyone else too. She hops again, and he gets on like kind of leaning over, and she hops on his back. The whole time she's just hopping, she's staying on top of the guy who's just slowly standing up, and then eventually gets on his shoulders. And then this one gal named Demi, she does this backflip off the top at the very end. And I'm just like, what? I got to do that.
Yeah. My favorite is when there's like a pattern or a trend that like everybody's doing like the exact same way.
Yes.
And then people find a way to put like a weird spin on it, like do their backflip or do the stand-up challenge with your dog or do it with a Four Loko in your hand or whatever the case may be.
You know, it's like, I don't know. I think this is the time to have fun. You know, not to make light of everything going on, but this is the time to experiment, right? So I love this conversation. You know, what could TikTok and B2B do together? I think it was Dave Gearhart. It was like, now's the time for marketers to either be boring, blah, and just get wiped off with like a hand sanitizer, or to be exciting and different. And like, this is the time. So yeah. Have you heard of the Dora challenge?
I don't know if I've heard of that one.
It's oh God, who sings that? I'm always bad with names, but anyways, it's like reggaeton, and there's a finger in front of the camera, and it's like poking the person's head and then their shoulders, and they have their hands up, and then they turn around. It's really funny. I showed it to my kids, and so we got them doing it too. It was kind of funny.
That's awesome.
Which ones do you remember? Any favorites come out, or you're just kind of just scrolling through the different ones?
I don't really read the hashtags that often, so I don't think I know like what the names of many of the challenges are or like the dances. But there's like, I don't know what your like TikTok feed is like, but on mine there's like maybe 5 to 10 songs that are like super hot at any given moment.
Yeah,
and I pretty
right.
much have them stuck in my head continuously.
Seriously. Hey, would you do the stand-up challenge with me for a fundraiser?
Yeah, sure.
All right, sweet. There it is. Boom. We'll get practicing in quarantine. It's like, oh God, Casey, edit that out. I don't want to do it. But no, it's fun, right? I think you know, as much as we have to like protect and stay safe and all these things, we also it's a good time to try to experiment, try new things in marketing.
Yeah, and a good time to just like be human. Like show your
Yeah.
customers that like, I don't know, there's a personality behind like the marketing that you're doing, and you don't take yourself that seriously. And I think there's a
Right.
lot of value in that.
Especially if that's your brand, but even if it isn't, like now's a good time to show who you are. I know there was a lot of things coming out about different brands that were doing different naughty things. I don't know if you heard about Ruth Chris or Steak Shack. Have you heard of this guy? Oh, Shake Shack. I think it was Shake Shack.
Yeah.
They got the PPP funding through like a loophole or something. Um, got $10 million, and everyone's like, "Wait, what? What are you doing? Do you need that money?" And Steak Shack or Shake Shack, either one could fit. Gave the money back. They're like, "Okay, we're not going to take the money, so someone else can use it," which I don't think actually works because it's now allocated to them. But no one's heard from Ruth Chris, and my thought was, well, they don't even, no one can even say their name, so I'm sure they're not out
Yeah.
for the people. But yeah, it's like all these different brands. It's like now's their time to show if they actually care, if they are human. I love that. To the point, be human right now.
Yeah, I love that Shake Shack did that.
It is
And
Shake
yeah,
Shack. See, we
Shake
don't
Shack,
have
yeah.
any of those up here, so I'm like completely.
Yeah, they I've only had Shake Shack in Chicago. I don't know where it originated, but amazing
Yeah,
burgers and milkshakes.
I've had it in the airport
Um,
somewhere.
yeah, it's some good stuff. I don't know if I've ever been to a Ruth Chris Steakhouse, but yeah, like they like side by side in all the headlines, like those two companies were referenced together, like Ruth Chris and Shake Shack got this PPP funding or whatever, and Shake Shack's stepping up and like doing the human thing and like talking about it and like being a part of the conversation about what was going on. I think that's genius PR move because yeah, Ruth Chris looks like the bad guy and Shake Shack looks like I frequent there when we can go out to restaurants again, maybe.
Right? Maybe if you're in the airport, you're hungry, and there's nothing else open. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a Shake Shack at a Ruth Chris Steakhouse,
Oh,
go to Shake Shack.
please, yeah. I was seeing some comments on Facebook where Deb Gabor, I got to introduce you to her. She's amazing. Her book is A Brand is Sex, so she's a lot of fun.
It's an
EO,
amazing.
EO as well. So I'll introduce you to her. She was saying that someone told her Ruth Chris is the third-rate steakhouse in the second largest cities. So, shots fired, Ruth Chris. What are you gonna do now?
Those are
But
fighting words.
but
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. These decisions, it's so true. The little decisions even that we make in our marketing, in our emails, if we're casual about something that we should be serious about in terms of medical, or if we're abusing the keywords. I know I ranted about that the other day on LinkedIn. Like, stop being like all about COVID in your emails unless you're really helping, or just leave that alone. But now's a good time for people to step it up. Have you seen anyone do it wrong, do it right? Any recommendations on how people, blend that humanity back into their marketing?
Somebody shared an example in our team Slack that we shared at the virtual happy hour last week. But it was a mailer from a car dealership that they put in a like a brown envelope and wrote stimulus funding on it or something like that, like Corona COVID stimulus funding on it
What?
to get people to open it. But like, how pissed would you be if you are like, oh my God, is this something I need to care about? And then it's an ad for a car dealership. Like, what the hell?
That is in like a Dante's level of hell right there. In fact, that dealership needs to get outed, and the internet
Yeah.
anonymous needs to swoop down on them and just and let them know what's up. That's the worst. Wow, that's so scammy. That is so
Yeah,
scammy.
pretty
Wow.
bad.
Of course, they're getting a lot of free attention, but hopefully it's too much for them and it breaks them. But yeah, I've
Like,
also
yeah,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say the only other like mistake that I feel like is taking place a lot is like people feeling like they need to keep marketing or keep the same frequency of communications just to fill the void. And like, if you used to do a weekly email and now you don't have a reason to, we don't need to hear from you weekly still about how you feel about COVID. Like, it's not adding value. So like thinking about like what is this trying to accomplish, and like, am I making anybody's lives better because I'm
Yeah.
sending this?
Yeah, that's huge. Honestly, Deb was who I was chatting with the other day was saying like it might be a good time to stop your automations just to make sure you don't have some weird thing in there. I think she got she bought some legal pads, and she got an email from Staples saying, can you give a 5-star rating to these legal pads? She's like, I have a few more important things to do than rate my legal pad purchase, Staples. Like, come on. It's like, maybe you should change things. But yeah, I've seen a lot more emails, I think, in my, I don't say spam box, but the inbox.
My other quarantine hobby is unsubscribing from things.
Oh, amen. Yeah.
It's been so refreshing to see my inbox start to clear up. It seems like a lot of people are embracing that as a quarantine hobby, so it'll be fascinating to see what the data shows on like marketers' unsubscribe rates during this.
Oh my gosh,
time.
quarantine hobby. We've invented it here. Love it. Quarantine hobby is unsubscribing from emails.
Yep, TikTok.
And they're
I'm
and they're
also
all
learning how to make
coming
gin.
in.
That's my other quarantine hobby, gin making.
You're learning how to make gin?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez, we have to get into that. Okay. So one other question before we get into some of that craziness. Marketing automation. Both love it. We worked at it many, many, many years. Between us, we have like 1,000 years collective Pardot experience.
Yeah, rounding up.
Yeah, rounding up, honestly, conservatively speaking, about 1,000 years of experience. Do you remember when you first got it? You remember what platform was it? And
Yeah, so I first onboarded Pardot in 2010. I was actually a HubSpot customer at the time.
okay,
But the platforms weren't as similar as they are today.
right.
HubSpot's email engine was just getting started. Pardot wasn't really positioning in the same way that HubSpot was. So in my mind, they weren't even like really competitors. But yeah, 2010. It's hard to believe it's been a decade.
Jeez, time flies, and some things change and some things stay the same. They haven't changed the name yet. It's nice.
Nope.
But I think eventually, when people figure out that it's not Pardot, then they'll change it, because I think that's the whole point.
Yeah, as soon as everyone gets it down.
Yeah, as soon as everyone's got it, like all the people we visit overseas, and they're like, Pardot, right? You're like, oh my gosh, you're right. That's what you call it. They'll be like, okay, we're renaming this something else you can't pronounce.
I really hope they don't change the name though. I think the Pardot brand has such good brand equity that I would miss it if they changed it.
Seriously, in this Pardot tattoo I have over here, that like I'd have to scratch it out. Pardot gods, please do not change the name. Please, please, please. It's way cooler than Marketo and HubSpot, so just leave it the same. Amen.
I also miss that old school logo, the purple and teal. The crazy P. And then they changed it to orange for when the exact target bottom.
For like a second when it was orange.
Yeah.
And then just as soon as you're like, okay, we got orange in our docs now, they're like, cool, it's not orange anymore. Like, damn it. So if I were to ask you, well, where do you think it goes? Where do you think marketing automation goes? The future of it.
Yeah, I think
because you're connected. You're tied into the ecosystem. Things. I don't know if you have your own apartment, Salesforce Tower, but you should. And so what's the inside scoop?
Yeah, I think the future of marketing automation is expanding beyond the swim lane of what most people traditionally consider marketing. And we kind of touched on this with some of our last discussions, but like marketing automation being the tool that's driving everything. So like Pardot plus Service Cloud, and looking at how we can communicate with customers differently based on the support ratings they're giving us, or if they have an open case, or proactively targeting sales opportunities based on complaints about a particular product. So kind of integrating like marketing with service. Also like Pardot and Salesforce communities. So looking at like how are we communicating with dealers, with partners, and can we use tools like Qualify to streamline the process of like booking meetings and routing leads to our dealer network. I think, yeah, just kind of overall theme, like marketing busting out of its swim lane and looking at ways it can add value across the whole business.
Oh, that's so cool. As you were describing that, I was thinking about like a pair of shoelaces or something, where like marketing automation is sort of threaded in throughout all the different brands and silos and parts of the shoe, and it's like you're pulling it tighter. things are just getting closer and closer, and marketing is the thing that does that. And I like that we're always kind of thinking big picture, and now we have technology that can start thinking big picture with us. I mean, we're getting out with the campaign tracking, but I like where you're going with this. Like, we're going to tie into service. Like, how can we kind of look into that, and how can we look into that? So maybe marketing becomes the thing that just bridges all of these gaps,
Yeah, I'm all about that.
That's
The
cool.
other like kind of future of thing,
Yeah.
ABM, when ABM first started getting hot, I honestly was kind of annoyed by the talk track around it, because
Oh, yeah.
from my perspective, like, ABM is B2B marketing. Like, that's how B2B marketers should operate. Like, you're thinking about, like, sales is thinking about what's our plan of attack for these accounts, looking at like that's just how they think about it. So if you're not already on the ABM train, would highly recommend starting to think about that, and starting to think about ways to understand the worldview of your sales team and how marketing can fit into that. It feels weird to call that a future of thing, because it's not like it's revolutionary. It's been around for a while, but definitely something that I think we should see more B2B companies leaning into over the next couple of years.
There it is right there. Mic drop. That's it. Yeah, no, I love that. That is, I was the same way with ABM. Usually I'm the same way with anything that people are kind of, it's like a trend. I am not like that early in the curve, the adoption curve, and like crossing the chasm, those kind of things. I am not early on. I'm like a laggard, because I'm like, really? I'm skeptical. Everyone likes this, because you know what? Everyone liked New Kids on the Block back in the day. And I was like, I'm skeptical of these guys. Lost. Everyone was like, this is the best TV show ever. I'm like, I'm not going to watch that till the last season. Then I'm like, wait, this is actually one of the greatest shows I've ever seen, right? So I'm kind of always, sort of like really kind of seeing, is this just buzz, or is this actually good? But you're right. I mean, there's so many good things about ABM, and we're just doing it. Just good marketing. It just has like a banner and a title and conferences and that kind of thing. But really, it's just about matter of zeroing in on the right customers.
Yeah. What rubbed me the wrong way about the early ABM talk track was, I feel like they positioned it as the alternative to like all the marketing that you're currently doing.
Yes,
Like,
totally.
don't worry about generating leads, worry about accounts. But you have to do both. Like, you have to walk and chew gum at the same time. Like, you still have to do content marketing that still applies to your ABM strategy. It's not an either or thing. It's about like being on the same page as sales, making sure that you're contributing and operating in lockstep.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like the whole, flip your funnel, as in whatever you're doing now, you're completely upside down. I mean, there's some finer points to like, well, look, a lot of these people you're going after, you're trying to boil the ocean. That's one thing. Let's get more targeted. But yeah, it's not like stop what you're doing and go buy display ads. Like that ain't it, right? It's more a matter of, okay, what could you do for everybody? Now, what could you do for a select few? And what, how can you customize it? Yeah, there's some really good lessons. I don't know how it got all buzzy, but it did. But I think we're kind of recovering from that now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I used to kind of like just like the label, like slapping a label on it and be like, this is ABM, because like from my perspective, that's how good B2B marketing was just done. But in a weird way, like sometimes putting a label on things makes it easier for people to talk about them. So
That's true.
Labeling it probably has contributed to the rise of it in general.
That's actually a good point, because I was looking up the book here, but Sangram, I mean, ABM is B2B, right? That's the book. It's true.
Yeah.
Like, cool. And I'm glad he came out with that, because his other book was like, let's flip the funnel, and then it's like smash everything. But this book is like really what this thing is.
Broken, whatever.
Yeah, it's broken. Oh, and the other thing, I thought you were going to go there too, is like, not only were they saying stop doing what you're doing, not Sangram, but like the ABM buzz. But it was also like anti-marketing automation. Like, marketing automation is this old school thing. You got to flip it, and don't use that anymore. Use this other tool. But it's like, is it all about just using another tool, or is it, what's the strategy? Where does the technology fit after that?
Yep. No strategy has ever been accomplished by a single tool. It's how you use it, not like throwing product at things.
Seriously. I know you encounter that all the time too. Just people throwing tech at the wall and seeing if it sticks. Electronics don't stick on anything, so don't do that. It's not like spaghetti. Spaghetti sticks. You can throw that at the wall, but don't throw Don't throw your laptop at the wall. Hey, future of marketing. Um, Anything exciting you coming around the bend? We've talked about the changes that are happening with marketing automation specifically, but anything else we should keep our eyes open for? Any other exciting things just happening around the corner?
So this isn't entirely linked to marketing, but there's two kind of just general trends that I'm super interested to see how they evolve with all this COVID stuff. So one is where higher ed goes as a result of kind of everything moving virtual. I think this could be a huge opportunity to just kind of revisit some old assumptions about the way
Yeah.
people learn and the way people interact with each other, and yeah, just kind of like take a closer look at those assumptions and be open to new ways of doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Also with remote work in general, like all the companies have been forced to go virtual overnight. I'm super interested to see how that evolves and things that we learn from this weird quarantine period.
Yeah, on the higher ed thing, it's so true. And we may not feel the impact for a while. I was talking to a friend of mine who's a professor, and they're kind of insulated right now. So they've got grants, they've got the research happening, all those kind of things. And so they're not really going to feel it till a little bit later when there may not be another grant right away or less funding. And then does enrollment change and things like that. So right now they're kind of comfy because everything is just sort of like, well, you're remote. But yeah, the idea of will students want to learn from a virtual Zoom? And I know some do. I mean, and there's some great businesses that do that. Southern New Hampshire University does that. They're like all over the place. But do you want to pay 30, 50, 80, however much K, 100 that you're paying a year? Whatever it is these days, I know it keeps going higher. It's scary when you have kids, right? So do you want to pay that for a Zoom call that you're going to barely be able to pay attention for? Or does that have to change in order to justify the money? Or do you just go hop on YouTube and get like, the Shaw class and some of the other things? You just get some free education. Go hop on Trailhead, get yourself a cert.
Yeah, yeah, and like, does the curriculum need to change?
Yeah.
Like, should your degree involve like taking 3 electives and 4 math classes, and or should it be more like functional based and focused? I think it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. And also just in higher ed also, like if you're a working professional who wants to upskill or like take your career to the next level, like is an MBA the right, is that the right move? Or like are there more bite-sized trainings or other like delivery models that make more sense there?
Yeah. Do you have one? Did you do that?
I've done a couple of random things. Like Seth Godin has this program called Alt MBA that I'm a huge fan of.
Did you
Harvard
do
Business.
that? I think we talked a while ago. Yeah, that's right. That because when we first met, you had like just done that, and that seemed like a really cool program, way better than any kind of extra.
Yeah, it's badass. I'm not gonna lie. Harvard Business School also, with their millions and millions of dollars of endowment, built this really cool learning platform for they have an online learning series called HBX. And it's basically like 6 week courses that their business school puts together that are very topical focused and very like case-based learning.
Yeah. Are
yeah,
they good?
They were fantastic.
They were fantastic.
Super good.
Oh.
And the technology that they use to drive it is like world class. Like they built this whole portal where, I mean, it's honestly almost a little bit similar to Trailhead, where you're reading content, you're watching videos, you're taking little quizzes as you're like studying on your own. And then the classroom experience, they actually have a professor that's teaching it live, and they have like TV screens all around him. And so everybody's on video, and he can like call on, the professor can call on people. There's cool. Like a chat and a whole like breakout function, and it's really well designed.
Yeah, that's it. See, they're figuring some stuff out ahead of the curve. It sounds like other people are going to have to adapt and adjust to that. I mean, even elementary, right? I'm upstairs. Lizzie was on like a class meeting, and I was hearing the teacher talk and describe how she's dressing up because she's going to the grocery store later, and called on someone to do a math problem, and was like, that person had to sort of work it out, and she wasn't just going to the next person. It was like you. And I remember yesterday called out a student who she could see wasn't paying attention. I was like, oh no, we're going to stay on you because it looks like we need to concentrate here. So things could certainly be changing. Interesting on the MBA front, though. It sounds like those specific topical things were a good route for you. I know I couldn't handle like doing like the full MBA where I'd have some professor talking about social media, and then like, you know, with less followers than I have. And I don't even have a lot of followers, but like someone being, okay, you follow people on Twitter, like, oh, I'm paying like $5,000 for this class. What am I doing? But I can see how specific topical things that you actually want to pick up that knowledge might be the way of the future. Very cool. Tell me about the remote work thing too, because you guys are remote, we're remote, but a lot of our customers haven't been. And so everyone's sort of making that shift.
Yeah, it's so our team has been fully remote since day one, and I know have you guys always been remote also?
Yeah, for sure.
It feels like a sort of an unfair competitive advantage because like our team already has like the whole home setup, is used to kind of doing things on their own, collaborating virtually.
Yeah.
Obviously like the kids and the spouses at home are a different twist on the whole thing.
Right. Find that private space, otherwise you have the kid walking in the background.
Yeah, I think I almost was taking for granted how good our team is at digital collaboration, and that became apparent when lots of customers and prospects started trying to do video calls and things like that. Like just basic things like you can't hold your camera and walk around. Like it's so distracting. Don't do that. Turn it off for 5 seconds. And just kind of some Zoom etiquette things like that.
Yeah. Any other faux pas you've seen people mess up on Zoom?
What'd you say?
Any other like faux pas, anything other people are doing that you probably should stop doing on Zoom? Any recommendations?
I know a lot of people like these, but I hate the virtual backgrounds. I think they're so distracting.
They can be. If you have a laptop that can handle it, you don't even need like a green screen these days. Which is interesting. But
on mine, it's pretty.
Do it.
You wanna see? Like I can go to space.
Wow, you're in space, the final frontier.
Yeah, but to me it's just a distraction. And part of the magic of video is like you're seeing people where they are, and if their kid is in the background, like their kid's in the background, it's fine. Like we're all kind of in the same boat with that. And
yeah, honestly, the backgrounds can be kind of interesting. It shows a little bit who you are. Of course, I'm in a boring basement right now, but have an orange wall.
It sparks a conversation, if nothing else.
It totally does. It totally does. And I was talking to someone else on a prep call the other day, and he has 2 cameras, and he showed me first this kind of cool view from the side that showed his bookshelf and stuff. And then he did this like super high camera that's on top of his like tech stack or whatnot. And I was like, let's go back to the side one because it showed more of your room. It was good seeing the things behind you. You're right. And sometimes even just watching people fade in and out because their face shades the color of the wall or something, that's more distracting than just your green wall with a cool Trailblazer guy behind, right? It's like, that's way more interesting. I will say though, for me, I can tell it the color of my hat right here. And if I do that, then it'll like change my hat a different color. Let's see here.
That's cool.
So I can go like that, right? And then it's just like coolest. It's like a Back to the Future hat, right? Like, yeah, Back to the Future hat. But yeah, terribly distracting because everywhere you go, it's like a different part of the image.
Other like virtual collaboration learnings, I think. So like a lot of people are adopting Slack now as like a way for their teams to stay in touch. And I think like setting like clear expectations around like how it's meant to be used is important, because like the sense of urgency responding to Slack messages, if you're just like, if you have notifications on your phone, like it's overwhelming and people feel like they have to respond like right away. So with my team, I've tried to set the expectation that like Slack is asynchronous communication. Like if you need to come back to this thread a little bit later, that is fine. If I'm sending you a note at 5:30, you can wait until morning to respond to it. Like it's no more urgent than email.
Unless I send you a message, in which case I demand an immediate response. But
also like
communication, yeah, it makes sense. Like do this in parallel with everything else. It's not like I'm calling you on the phone.
And another thing we've talked a lot about internally is like thinking harder about tone. for digital communications, because if people can't see you, they can't hear your voice, like a lot can get lost in translation. So like being purposeful about like thinking a lot about like how your messages will make people feel, and maybe investing a little more time in that than you would otherwise if you had a chance to see them in person most of the day. And then also like when you're on the receiving end of messages, just assuming positive intent, like reading it in the best possible way it could have been meant, rather than reacting to things that may or may not have been a part of the message.
That is huge. Honestly, I'm glad it even came up, because you're so right. I mean, there's a reason emoticons exist, because if I say something sarcastic and I don't wink at you, what are you supposed to expect? I guess you got to take me at what I've just said. I mean, the juvenile, the early days was like, don't use all caps because that's yelling. We're beyond that now. We're like, I'm winking or smiling at you because I do not mean that I hate you. I'm just saying I hate you, right? So it's like, you need to assume that doesn't necessarily come through the words, and assuming the positive intent too. That's a really tough one, because I know people who don't, right? So to your point about tone, know that you need to work on assuming other people's intent is positive, but they may not assume yours is positive. So be extra careful sending that message, because they try reading your own message in like the worst possible way and see how it sounds,
Yeah, like an example of that is like one word answers, like just like a yes or no. Like maybe you're like the person's on their phone, they're just responding in Slack. But the person on the receiving end, if you ask like a really elaborate question, the person just says yes. Like it feels off-putting.
Yeah.
And so like if you're on the writing end of that, like thinking a little bit harder about like can I add some additional context around this, or can I affirm what they're saying? And if you're on the receiving end of that, realizing like that person probably didn't think about it for that long, and they were probably like making dinner and doing this on their phone also. So like just because something feels like you feel like there's more to read between the lines, like don't put meaning that isn't there and assume that they mean well by it.
Yeah, the assumptions. Good point. As we shift out of the facial communications, and I still think video whenever you can, especially internally, even with customers. But when you can't and you're in email, it's a good point. Like, wow, what kind of miscommunications could possibly be happening out there in the ether, especially when people aren't used to that. But your thing about the huge email kind of reminding me. Somebody asked me, they're like, I don't know, HubSpot, Pardot the other day, they're asking me that on email. And I don't usually have time for long ranty emails, but you got to get it out of your system one or two of these days. So it was like late at night, I had a glass of wine. So I was like, let's do this. Let's defeat the forces of HubSpot. And so I was just writing back to this owner of this financial company. Was like, here's the deal. Here's this. It's something like 12 paragraphs. I know, a little crazy, but I was like into it, and I didn't realize how long it was. So I scrolled back, and then when I sent it, and I got my response. Actually, I didn't get a response, so I had to be like, did you get this? And then the response I got was like, it was like, several paragraphs. It was like long, which was good, because if he had just been like, okay, thanks, I would have been like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I just spent like 2 hours of my life for you. Like, okay, bye. Oh man.
100%.
Crazy. Okay. So, I have a question for you. I've known you for a bit, and my question to you is, who are you? Like, take us back to like little Andrea days. Who are you? Where did you come from? What was it like growing up as you? Like, take us back in time.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about my parents, I guess, since they're kind of like the origin. But my mom is from Santiago, Chile.
No way.
My dad is from Kearney, Nebraska. So very opposite upbringings. But yeah, she immigrated when she was in college. Her family had hosted a lot of exchange students, and randomly most of them were from Nebraska, so she just assumed that's where all the people are. Unfortunately, not really the case. But my dad was in the Navy, so as a kid, I moved around a ton.
How much did you move around? Because my dad was in the Navy too, and then he eventually got in the Air Force. So what different places did you go?
Like every 2 years, roughly. So like
really?
South Carolina, Washington, Georgia, Connecticut, Massachusetts. Where else? I think that's pretty much it.
Damn, that's a lot of movements. Every 2 years? Because I know sometimes they try to slow that roll down a little bit.
Yeah, it was a rapid roll.
Was
But
that all the way? How long was that? Was like through high school or whatnot, or you were just constantly moving? Or
I'm through fourth grade.
oh wow,
Yeah, and then settled in Omaha, Nebraska, and that's where I went to like high school and middle school and all that. But yeah, so studied political science in college. I really wanted to work for the federal government. Changed my mind about that after like doing some internships and things in government and in politics.
where'd that come from though? Like what early on you just what kind of inspired you to like look into that or pursue that kind of thing?
I don't really know. I've always been interested in politics and have always been like I was like the dork in like second grade who was like making petitions and trying to get everybody to sign like a rally for having Martin Luther King Day off of school or whatever.
Nice. In like second grade, you're like, come on guys, sign this with your your crayon
Literally.
hand and like let's protest.
Yeah, I randomly
awesome.
ran into somebody that I went to elementary school with, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you're that petition girl." So it's stuck.
Wow, petition girl. That's awesome. So you're just like, you know, causing a storm here and that kind of person. So you're like, I'm going to go to school for this and just take this into
Yeah,
life.
what I liked about it was, I guess like just an interest in being able to drive change and um, like advocate for things that you believe in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I leaned into politics as like political science as an angle. But I did a couple internships for political campaigns. Worked for a campaign consulting company. Worked for the mayor's office in Milwaukee. And what I realized is politics is not always the fastest way to drive change. Things move really slowly, and people are pretty political and backstabby, and that's not really that fun. It seemed, I mean, honestly, in as a marketer and as a business owner, I feel like you have a lot of tools to drive change in a different way,
Yeah.
and it's a lot more fun than my early experiences with politics.
Yeah, totally. You can surround yourself with people that like you like to work with and who aren't going to backstab you the next election cycle. I had an experience like this too, where I volunteered for a political campaign. It was like for a governor of New Hampshire. It was like many moons ago. It was a job. So at first it was just a volunteer, but like, hey, you do like computer things? I was like, sure. They're like, all right, you can clean our database out like every day. Just sit there and like clean things out and help out the IT guys. Okay. Um, and it was cool because you get to meet the candidate and he seemed like a nice business guy. His name was Benson. He was like a business guy. And you're like, oh, okay, he seems like a smart guy. But like the other people in his party would like just tear him apart. And you're like, I don't know. That doesn't really sound true. I mean, he looks like a nice guy. Like, so it just kind of gave me that taste as well that sounds like you saw where you're just like, ew, this is like gross. People that can handle this is like more power to them, I guess. But man, this is like dog eat dog cutthroat in here.
100%. And I think that like the competitive side of campaigning and politics,
Yeah.
it makes people do weird things and like behave like there's scarcity when there's not. So like
Right.
people wanting to be really close to the candidate and like, not wanting other people to have time and just like thinking about things in a weird like zero-sum game type of way.
Yeah,
Like,
right?
we're all trying to do the same thing. Like, can we all just chill?
Yeah, and I think one of the things too is like the more fearful people are, the more you get your base afraid or angry, the more, and so you're just trying to make people scared and angry all day. And it's like, ugh. Like I just want to make people happy and laugh all day. I don't want to make them like help them find their dreams and like positive things, not just get them angry so we can get more power.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And if your goal at the end of the day is to get shit done, like I think that way of working is head and shoulders above like being over dramatic or polarizing or
totally
political.
A buddy of mine's been an alderman off and on for the city I live in, and I'm like, no thanks. Like it'd be fun to run and just meet people and say hi and shake hands and have a sign, but he's in like 7 committee meetings for like a city. And it's like the committee to blah, 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 the committee to blah, blah. So to your point about getting things done, we'll talk about things. We're going to talk about things and tell people they're amazing, but it's like, I just want to get things done. I want to smash this committee and like, let's go build that bridge. But you can't. You got to just sort of like do all the smoozing. So, okay, so you were discovering this, and then was this in school when you discovered this? Had you already graduated and you're like?
So, I mean, I graduated with a degree in political science with an emphasis on foreign politics and Spanish literature.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I realized while I was in school that probably wasn't the route that I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And kind of just took a marketing job because like I wanted to try something new and do something different.
You just did. And you just took a marketing job.
Yeah, and it just like escalated really quickly. Like I liked what I was doing, so I kept doing it. And I took some marketing classes in school and like did a minor in marketing.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you did a minor in it, so you've been thinking about it too.
Yeah, okay. But none of the courses that I took honestly had any bearing to the real world. Like we never talked about Salesforce. I didn't even know what marketing automation was as a category until I realized that I had a need for it. Like none of that was talked about in schools. Like more of like statistical analysis of brand awareness and the lift on like purchases of CPG products and like things that just aren't super relevant to B2B marketers.
I'm super like, I don't want to say shady. Like I have a very negative impression of school just because same here, like the learnings that I did. I mean, I know there's some valuable lessons and socialization. I ran my first company and like, it's good stuff, but yeah, the content, it wasn't, hearing like your HBX experience, or I was able to interview Peter Fader, who's a Wharton professor on here. I'm like, oh, okay. There are really good, like shining people that I would want to like just climb the mountain and learn from, in the clouds kind of thing. There are those people out there, but a lot of times schools they kind of just take orders, and they're like, here's this marketing stuff from the 80s. And you're like, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So you just kind of just kept doing it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's awesome. So I the marketing gig that I got right out of school, I was a one-woman marketing team.
Nice.
As I mentioned before, was a HubSpot admin, so doing a lot of content marketing through HubSpot. Bought Pardot to fuel lead gen and email marketing. And then our sales director came to me and said, hey, there's this thing that we use called Salesforce. Somebody bought it in 2007. Nobody knows how to use it. We'll send you to Dreamforce if you can figure out how to build this. He drew this thing for me on a whiteboard.
That's awesome.
What he drew basically was what Sales Path is right now. And he's like, if you can figure out how to make our Salesforce do this, we'll pay for you to go to Dreamforce. So I had no idea what I was getting into, but I was like, sure, absolutely. Send me to San Francisco.
Yeah, and then you go to Dreamforce and like your eyes are open.
Yeah,
like
all the Kool-Aid immediately, full on consumed. I've been a massive Salesforce fan ever since.
Absolutely. Which year was that? Which Dreamforce?
2011.
Do you know who the band was? That's how I keep track of who was playing.
It was Metallica.
Oh, gotcha.
And the second Dreamforce I went to was in 2018, which was also Metallica.
So
came
next time you go, is that going to be Metallica? No, you've been 19 and 20, right? So.
Yeah, I've been 19. Yeah. Fascinated to see if they end up doing it in 20. I'm betting on probably not.
Yeah, eventually they wheel them out in wheelchairs. They're these old guys like, we're Metallica, and well, it's a tradition here at Dreamforce to have Metallica, so we have them come out. That's awesome. That is so cool. And then, where did the idea for Sercante come from?
So after that gig, kind of where I was an in-house marketer, I worked for a digital marketing agency, helping them do email marketing, implement Pardot, and start thinking about ways they could evolve the services that they were offering to their customers.
Right.
Moved to Atlanta, I guess it was 4 years ago.
From where? Where were you before that?
From Wisconsin.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really are just Midwesty out there.
Totally, yeah.
Your Nebraska roots. Are you going to go to Chile at some point? Are you going to just move there and have like a second home?
So I actually lived there. I went to Pardot middle school there.
Oh, wow.
I went to school with my cousins. was
Been
annoying
to
my
Machu
parents. So they're
Picchu and
like,
all? Have you
just
been like,
go.
have you explored down there and done
Not
that?
really. I've only really been to Santiago and like the beach.
Oh, nice. Nice.
But
Okay.
yeah, so client side, worked for a marketing agency,
Yeah.
and then worked for a Salesforce consultant here in Atlanta called Configuro, who was I did kind of a blend of like marketing consultancy and like helping them do Pardot implementations. But
Right.
kind of those two experiences of like seeing how marketing agencies were looking at Pardot and looking how Salesforce consultants were looking at it, it just felt like there was a gap. Like marketing
Totally.
agencies are really good at like the strategy and the creative and thinking about like how campaigns should be designed and executed. But as soon as a lead hits Salesforce, that's kind of where their depth of expertise ends.
Gone.
And they've kind of been
Yeah.
kind of hands off as like, okay, yeah, we got the lead in. Like now you figure out what to do with it. That's not
Sure.
where we fit in. Salesforce consultants almost have the opposite problem where like the process and the system side they get like thinking through like what are all the steps that are going to be involved. But when marketers are like, okay, but what do I do with Pardot though? They're like, well, let's find a marketing agency. So I'm kind of trying to position Sercante right at the middle of those two things and provide everything that marketers need to be successful with Pardot. So strategy, creative, execution, technical support, and then full-on integration with Salesforce and process integration.
Boom. There it is. Totally right about that middle ground though. I think you and I both sort of love hanging out in there, and we can kind of speak to languages of the other sides, but there's sort of that third country in the middle that if I had $1 for every time someone tried to approach Pardot technically, like I remember an IT project manager trying to do implementation of Pardot. And we're like, okay, let's build some forms. And we're like, what would you like on the forms? And they're like, I don't know, what should we have on the forms? And we're like, well, you could do this and this and this and this, but it's kind of like their decision. You need someone in the marketing team to be like, well, we want to capture this, but it was more of like, oh no, this is an IT project, guys. You go ahead, just implement this thing. Don't worry about it. It's like, actually there's a lot of requirements, and there's all sorts of thought process and strategy to go into it. So it's so true.
And you just can't do it successfully without like having all of that full spectrum, like all the boxes ticked there, because like $10 says that IT person that completed that Pardot implementation without like having a strategy or knowing what they were going to do with it, those are the customers that 6 to 12 months later like log into Pardot and like, oh yeah, we did buy this thing. Like, what have we done with it? Oh, nothing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That was a good investment.
Yeah, like when you were told, oh, we've had Salesforce for years. Here's the account. We've never dusting it off. we don't even know the logins anymore. Like how do you actually use it? You're here to actually use it, not just it's not shelfware,
Yeah, and in a perfect world, like you'd have all those skill sets on your team. So like you'd have somebody that has a strategic vision, somebody that's can drive the creative, can write content. But if you don't, and like there's a specific gap, like identify those and find ways to fill them, because like Pardot isn't broken if you aren't using it. Like I see a lot of we talked to a lot of organizations that have had Pardot for a while that have the opinion that they have like a failed implementation. And when we start digging in, more often than not, it's like it has nothing to do with how the system was actually technically implemented. It's a process thing or a content thing, or their data is all over the place.
Right.
And
it's
like
not
that
using
just
it,
wasn't
right?
thought through.
Yeah. Because the implementation is like a drop in the hat. Your implementation is like a 2-month training process with a couple setup items, albeit make sure those are set up. But after that, it's like, what are you going to build? How are you going to use it? Not just let it. It's not like set it and forget it kind of thing,
Yeah. So either like build those core competencies on your team, or find a partner who can fill some of those gaps.
I know 2 really good ones. You're here listening to them right now.
I know a few.
Right? So there are a few, but we're talking here. So so this is cool stuff. You've had a really cool history, and I want to get to talking about a few things, but if you were to kind of wrap this thing up, and I got to tell you a secret. I may or may not have a time machine in Nashua, New Hampshire. Now, with COVID and everything, you can't really get up here to use it, gloves and mask and everything. So, but afterward, if I was to let you use, hypothetical, a time machine that may or may not exist, and go back in time to talk to yourself, right? And ideally, you're kind of going right back to time. You just graduated college. You got that poli-sci, the minor in marketing. You got the Spanish literature. What would you tell yourself? What would you advise yourself, knowing what you know, having done all these things you've done?
Yeah, I wish I would have gotten exposure to Salesforce even earlier. I mean, 2010 is still fairly early days for marketing automation, but yeah, there's just so much career potential in this ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I definitely would have pointed past self to those tools. I would also
Might as well tell yourself to buy stock while you're at it too, right?
yeah,
There's this thing called Salesforce. Go do that now. Buy some stock. What?
Yeah.
Stock? You'll thank me later. Go for it.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, and also like another thing I would let my past self know. So like a lot of the things that frustrated me early in my career, like trying to convince sales to update their effing opportunities, like all of like the work to drive change to kind of build adoption around Pardot and Salesforce. At the time, I always kind of viewed that as like the stuff that is getting in the way of doing the work. But in a big way, like that human side of trying to drive change is the real work. Like that's the hard work of being a B2B marketer. So I would have told my past self, like, power through it. You're going to learn a ton. And like driving change is like, that's the work. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. I like that. The human side of that change. That's the work. Not like, oh, look what I got to deal with. I just really want to build this thing. It's like part of building it is that change management.
Yeah, the blood, sweat, and tears that go into like getting others on board and all that stuff.
Makes the tech the easy part, you know? It's the gooey humans that are
Yep.
the illogical gooey humans with their different needs and wants in the organization. It's like getting all of them to slowly move in that direction. That's the real mastery of the whole experience.
I would also tell my more recent past self to take the leap and start Sercante earlier.
Oh yeah.
I had the idea of starting a business in the back of my mind for a really long time, but just always thought like I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't seen enough Pardot orgs. Like I'm not XYZ.
Sure.
Like that imposter syndrome is very real in a lot of Pardot and Salesforce admins, and a lot of people that have fantastic ideas for how they can make a difference in the ecosystem. So yeah, take the leap if you're one of those people and you're cooking an idea.
Take the leap. I love that. And the imposter syndrome, where do you think that comes from? Because you're right. Everyone kind of has that, like, oh, here you are, 12X certified. And it's like, oh, have I seen enough Pardot accounts? Hell yeah, you have. Like, where does that sort of self-doubt come from, you think?
So, I mean, I think all professionals kind of struggle with imposter syndrome, and just like with social media and all of the communication that's out there, it's really easy to compare yourself to people and like assume that everybody else has it figured out and you're the one that doesn't.
Right.
I also think like just being in your own Pardot and Salesforce org sometimes is kind of limiting, because like you don't know what you don't know. You haven't seen under the hood of other people's environments. And so like it's always interesting to like hear somebody talk about like where they're at with Pardot and then actually look into their org and see it, because some of the best marketers that I know, they're like, oh, everything's a mess. We haven't really used it that much. We're not doing scoring and grading. We have so much to learn. And then you look into their system and it's like a beautiful thing to behold.
Yeah,
like,
all the beautiful folder structures and everything.
Yeah. And then the flip side is true too, where like some people that are fairly confident about where they're at and don't feel like they have to score, you log in and it's like, wait, you're just using this like a glorified MailChimp. Like,
those are fun, right? One had their main form on their homepage that everyone visits and everyone fills out, and it was in kiosk mode, right? And so they didn't know anything. It was like, but yeah, kind of having the humility to look around and see other accounts and listen to other user stories, but also the confidence to be able to say, actually, we got something good going on here.
Yeah. Sure. And everybody has things to learn. Like the Salesforce ecosystem is infinite. Like you can never know everything there is to know about Salesforce.
So true.
but if you've been doing this for a while and like you care about it, you probably also have something to teach. So like getting involved in user groups, getting involved in the success community, can be a good way to combat some of that imposter syndrome, I think.
Yeah, and that user group thing, you don't need to be an expert. You just need to love what you do, right? And learn from people. And I mean, for me, the podcast is that. Like, I realized, there's a lot of marketing I don't know because I do so much marketing automation. I need to learn more. And so you just kind of put yourself out there to learn from somebody else. And I'm learning from you today. And you're right. That's what user groups all about, is just sharing knowledge and just learning from each other. Take the leap, says Andrew.
Yep.
Quote, there it is. There's the Instagram. There's the TikTok. Jumping off of something. Sweet. So this has been really crazy, really cool. We are quarantined. You're in your home office. I'm in mine. Where are you going when this thing is done? When you can get out of the house, when travel starts to open up, do you have any place in mind? Because I know you're a big traveler. I'm seeing photos of you, like first class, feet up, coming back from Amsterdam or whatnot. Like, where are you going first when you can get out of here?
So right before all this quarantine and shelter in place stuff started hitting, I was in Australia. I was there for a conference, which got canceled after I already landed. But I was supposed to be there for 3 weeks, and my hubby was gonna come out. We were gonna do a trip like last week, do a bunch of vacation-y things and outdoorsy things in Australia. And like I didn't do anything touristy in the 2 weeks that I was there because I was saving it all up for my husband to get there so we could do the fun stuff together. But then all this stuff started hitting, countries started closing borders. So I had to cancel and like come home early. So I'm going back to Australia, damn it.
And you didn't do a single touristy thing because you're waiting for your husband to get out there so you could like.
Yeah, exactly. Like.
So you're in like corporate Australia for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Did you even get to like the beach or anything or?
Mm-mm.
No. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What was it like?
It was awesome. I honestly loved the time difference, weirdly, because like by the time I'd wake up in the morning, like it'd be the future, like the next day compared to Eastern time. So the team would be firing on all cylinders. I'd log on, catch up on a few meetings, do a bunch of emails. I woke up at like 5 a.m. every day there to start working and maximize overlap with East Coast time.
Sure.
But then by like 10 a.m., like everybody else went offline. So like it was completely quiet. Everyone was asleep. I could do some really like deep focused work.
Sure.
It was awesome. And also just the like met with a bunch of people, Salesforce people, Pardot customers, spoke at the Melbourne Pardot user group.
Nice.
Just, I don't know, culturally loved the Australians and had a really good time. So I'm going back there.
That's cool.
Long story short.
100%. It's a long flight though, right?
Yeah, it's brutal. It's like a flight to LAX and then it's like 17 hours or something like that.
So it's like a 24-hour day.
Yeah, you go to sleep on the plane, you sleep for a full 8-hour night, and you wake up and there's still like 8 hours left to go. And it's
wow, so you have like a full 8-hour day awake after you've already been asleep, so it's not like you can be like groggily. Damn.
Yeah, brutal.
Do you even have Wi-Fi if you're like that far out?
I had Wi-Fi for most of the flights, yeah.
You did? No kidding. Okay.
On Delta.
Delta. Shout out Delta. They got to take care of themselves
Delta
right
love.
now. I know, seriously. Wow. So, okay. If you have Wi-Fi, that makes sense. I did a flight on China Eastern many moons ago to Thailand. It was long, and I realized, we're over international space, and like there was no Wi-Fi. Maybe just because it was China Eastern, but I was like, I guess I'm watching some more movies.
I mean, I could have also been asleep when we left Wi-Fi. It's entirely possible.
Like, that's true. True. And then back in time to have it. So long flight, but that's where you're going. And you're gonna take the husband with you right off the bat? Like get out here.
We'll probably bring him along.
Yeah. Hang out with kookaburras and koalas. I hear you can like hold a koala.
You can't in Sydney, but in other Australian states you can.
Oh, really? There's like an anti-koala holding law?
Yep. They have you can't touch them. Weirdly. I guess it's not that weird.
Because they're like the cutest little teddy bears ever, but I hear they poop a lot. I
Yeah,
hear
they
they're
also have these like massive like claw hands.
yeah.
Like a mad koala, I think could do some damage.
Right? It's like you wake up and there's an angry koala next to you. You're like, no. I know you've been to like Amsterdam. Any favorite places you've been to in all your travels? Like your top
Istanbul.
three? Istanbul,
Istanbul was
really?
my number one.
Really?
Yeah, really, really love that city.
And did you have time to stay there? Because I flew through it once, but that was it.
Yeah, I was there for like four days. That's the only place I've been in Turkey, but just lots of beautiful architecture,
Yeah.
amazing food, really welcoming culture. Also in Istanbul, they don't euthanize cats and dogs. So if there's stray animals, they take them in, neuter them, give them vaccines, put them back on the street. And pretty much the entire city takes responsibility for taking care of them. So like puts little bowls of cat food out, and like
Yeah.
we'd be walking around these like mosques and really old buildings, and there'd just be a bunch of kittens hanging out, and
In the
it was
mosque, just
pretty cool.
kittens just like
Yeah,
chilling,
strolling around.
saying some prayers. Wow. You know, that's cool. I wouldn't go back there. I hung out I had like a work thing out in far eastern Turkey, where it was like right near Iraq and it was kind of sketchy. So I should give Turkey another shot and hang out in Istanbul. That sounds like a good time.
Tel Aviv is another one that my hubby and I went to.
Yeah.
So I was there for Sercante's first anniversary.
Wow.
That was our vacation that year. But that was also just gorgeous place to visit, and amazing history and all kinds of cool things.
In any of these places, do you have like family you're visiting or anything like that, where you can like, yo, what's up? Or is it all just?
It's mostly honestly based around where Delta flies and where I can use my Sky Miles. That's how both
Amen.
Istanbul and Tel Aviv got put on my radar.
That makes total sense. You know, God bless those Sky Miles, and wherever they take you. Do you like to stay in hotels when you get to places, or like Airbnbs, or what's like your scene when you get to a new place like that?
My hubby is a Hilton loyalist.
Hell yeah.
And he and his dad have the same name, and so they share a rewards account. So
Oh no!
it's like a lifetime whatever HH honors member. So
gosh,
we
that's
usually
awesome.
get like free upgrades if we use like their account. So if there's Hiltons, we try to use points and go that route. But if not, we love Airbnbs also.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm a big Hilton Honors fan too, and that's funny though. Sharing an account with my dad, I would get even more points through that whole process. That's awesome. So yeah, sometimes they had a nice. Was there like a nice Hilton in the Istanbul area? Did you do that, or was it like a nice little Airbnb?
In Istanbul, we stayed in Airbnbs mostly.
Okay. Nice.
The other thing that I'm super obsessed with lately is Hotel Tonight. Have you ever used that app?
No, tell me about it.
I can talk about it for a really long time. I'm obsessed with that app. It's sort of like, do you remember when Priceline used to do those like really low prices on last minute hotels type of thing? I feel like what didn't work about that was like they didn't tell you what the hotels they were, and so it was just really sketchy
shady
and mysterious. Yeah. But Hotel Tonight like has like the interface is awesome. It has like a bunch of user reviews. You can look at photos of the place, and you just get some really good deals on last minute hotels. So if you're a procrastinator like me, it's like the app that's made for you.
Would you literally get to a brand new place like Tel Aviv and not book until that night?
Yes. Yeah. That's what I did in Australia. I booked my hotel while I was waiting in the line at customs.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten like punished from doing that, or is it always sort of worked out?
One time I was punished in Prague. I was there for Czech Dreaming, and I had booked hotels like Sunday through Friday.
Sure.
In like the days of the conference, because I wanted to be in the city and I wanted to be close, and I didn't book the last night because I was like, well, maybe I'll try to go to another city, or maybe I'll travel somewhere else or whatever. And so I didn't book the last night. Apparently Prague is an amazing destination for bachelor and bachelorette parties, and Friday and Saturdays it's just like packed. So I didn't book until Saturday morning, and there was literally like nothing left. Like on the app, on Google, on hotels.com, every single place I called was booked. So I ended up having to stay like 45 minutes away and paid like $600 for like a random hotel room because I procrastinated a lot. But
Wow.
that
Wow.
kind of like canceled out everything I've saved. So now I'm trying to like build it back up.
Right. But oh, wow. Interesting. Because I know you and I share like Colby scores and whatnot, and I love sort of random adventures too. But there is kind of I do kind of enjoy the sort of the researching of, ooh, what's a really cool B&B or Airbnb or cool experience I can plan out in advance. But the idea of just winging it, wow, that's really adventurous. Just be like, okay, let's see what happens. And
Well, and then another thing I really like about the Hotel Tonight app is like the hotels that they have on there. There are some like big chains, but there's also a lot of like individual boutique hotels that are like locally owned and operated.
yeah,
And so I feel like you just don't stumble across those as easily on Google or other sites. So yeah, it helps you find some of those independent businesses.
yeah, it's like a contrast too, right? Because if you do a Hilton, you've got super polished, high standards, beautiful, amazing, and you can like, it's safe, and you're like, okay, I know this, it's
Yeah,
consistent.
it's very consistent.
Yeah. But on the other side, there's all sorts of risk and whatnot. But I do like, I mean, my favorite would be if you could say somewhere where you have a local who is either in the house like it's a B&B or advising you. I mean, we went to Paris for French Touch streaming. Our host was just WhatsApping me every day. And
That's
and
awesome.
I asked him one question and I got like 3 paragraphs back. I'm like, what's good around here for food? And he's like, boom, 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 and it was just like, he would check in like, hey, can I come meet you guys? And we're like, oh, we're already at the Louvre. Like, hey, can I, hey. And so it was just, I like that local connection because it really connects you to a place so that you're not super touristy all the time.
Yeah.
So Australia's it. I know Australia's a big country. So would you go to Sydney? Would you go there and kind of work your way up to the coast, or what would you do?
Yeah, so the two cities I went to were Sydney and Melbourne. I really want to go to Tasmania. I want to go to the Great Barrier Reef,
Yeah.
cairns. Also want to go to Adelaide and do like wine tours, and there's a lot to do in Australia. I was
Yeah.
really, really excited for the vacation portion of that trip, but didn't end up happening.
Dang it. So that is overdue for you. You are going to be booking that right away. So if anyone needs her, the week after COVID opens is not the time. Before that or after that, because she's going to be in Australia, crushing it. Andrew, this has been a blast. Where can people connect with you? Where can they reach out? Throw out URLs, social sites, platforms, everything.
Yeah, so spotforpardot.com.
Yeah.
That's my blog.
Like super
I'm on
popular
Twitter.
blog,
I'm on
I will say.
LinkedIn. I also am starting another blog called Venturing Virtual. That's going to be about remote work and some of the things that we're learning navigating that.
Wait, what's that again? Venturing Virtual?
Venturing Virtual. Yeah, the site's actually live, but it's not polished yet, so don't look at it.
Oh, see, now I really want to go look at it. And then everyone else is really curious too. But okay, so, and that's all just like tips on getting that virtual sense going.
Yeah, tips on remote work and yeah, like I have a blog about like how to get things done in like different time zones and how like if you're doing the traveling and working thing,
Oh,
like
this is
how to
awesome.
make that work with your
That's not
team.
unpolished. That's awesome. Should totally do this.
It needs a little design TLC.
Yeah,
One
for
of
sure.
my team members is gonna help me with this tomorrow.
I saw one
Actually,
the other day. Their background for their WordPress theme was like a barbecue grill. It would open with all these like meats with barbecue sauce on it. You look at it, you're instantly hungry. And I was like, that's brilliant. But now I'm hungry and I hate you, right? So it was like
yeah.
pros and cons. Okay, so we got this side, we got those URLs. What else? Cercante.com?
Yeah, Sercante.com is our corporate website.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter at Andrea Tarrell. And then, yeah, LinkedIn. You can follow me on TikTok, but I'm not going to produce content, so it's going to be pretty boring.
I want to follow you on TikTok, and one day I will see. Yes, one day, follow Andrea Tarrell one day on TikTok. You will see Casey and Andrea, the stand-up challenge. We will make this thing happen one day for charity.
Yep.
If we get enough donations for charity. Yeah, post-quarantine, exactly. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on here. This is a blast. Yeah, just to have a chance to like pause our busy days and just to have a one-on-one conversation like this, I think it's priceless. Even just to learn more about your story as well. So, and all the marketing tips too.
Yeah, this was awesome. I had a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
For sure, and for the millions of people listening at this point, I need you all, if you learn something, and I know you learned something because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, go share this with someone. Share it with like 9 people, share it with 42 people, 1,008 people. Just get this thing out so they can learn from Andrea. Focus on the outcomes, all the different things we're talking about. The closed loss campaign, what a brilliant idea, right? There's all these different things, the blanket statements, ABM. Man, oh man, I'm going to need to listen to this over again just so I can like remember all the things I was learning at the time. And again, Andrea, thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
You too. For everyone out there listening, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time.
All right. A big thank you to today's sponsors. Cheshire Impact, helping marketers and sales win, maximizing the use of Pardot and Salesforce. And a big thank you to Qualified.com, the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Remember the giveaway. If you have Salesforce Pardot and you want a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, then you go over to Qualified.com, engage in a chat, do a demo, and tell them that Casey sent you, and that book will be on its way to your door. All right. We'll see you all in the next one.